So I know all of you, but I'll introduce myself anyway. I'm Abaya, and I'm teaching here at Konalani. And today's class is going to focus on traveling some slightly unfamiliar pathways. And the reason I'm excited about this is because when we walk a familiar path, we can be unconscious, right? Or we can just do it the way that we've always done it. And so when it's unfamiliar, we kind of have to bring an extra presence. And I think that will help wake up some new musculature and help our cores get more intelligent and more sensitive, so we can release tension and feel really strong and supported. I do recommend having a blanket nearby, especially if you've got hardwood floors. And with that, we can begin. So take a quarter turn to your right and gently start to make your way down onto the belly. And if you're following along with the playlist today, I'll tell you when to hit play on the first track, but for now we'll start in silence. And so everything should be comfortable. So if I ever cue something that doesn't feel good, see if you can make an adjustment so that you feel more supported. And we'll release the head down and stack the hands. Let the elbows come nice and wide. Bring the forehead to the hands. Hi, Kara. Great to see you. Looks like you had a fun trip this past weekend. And make sure the shoulders feel safe and supported. The neck, the head can relax, and always give yourself permission to grab a blanket. Adjust the angle of the arms. And we start this way so often. I love how it brings the breath to the forefront of our awareness. And so as you soften here, notice if the breath becomes easier to drop into. You can literally feel it pressing against the earth. And oftentimes we breathe in a patterned way. We always breathe either into the chest or into the belly. And so let's take a little bit of time to expand the wave of our breath into the blind spots that we often forget. As you inhale, see if you can feel the belly pressing down into the mat. And then the breath rises up towards the ribs. The ribs press. And then the breath rises all the way into the chest. And you might not feel the chest exactly pressing into the mat, but maybe you can feel that space expanding. And then just as consciously as the inhale, watch the exhale. The releasing, the softening. The chest relaxes, the ribs knit back together, the belly softens. And take a few moments to watch the wave of your breath filling from belly up to ribs and then emptying out however feels smooth and natural. And take a couple more breaths like this, maybe becoming aware of the space you're creating through the back of the body as well as the front. And then see if you can stay just as aware of the breath as we start to introduce some gentle movements. If you would like to hit play on the first track, now is a good time to do that, and just make sure it's set to loop, and I'll tell you when to go to the next track. And so, sorry, it's a little loud on my end. I just want to... So tense the fingertips ahead of you, kind of like you're playing the piano. And allow the wrists to gently lift so that the fingertips are pushing down into the earth a little bit extra. You might notice a little illumination in the shoulders as you do that. Make sure there's a softness and no tension building in the neck and tops of the shoulders. And start to push into one set of fingertips, so one hand more than the other, and notice how the rest of the body responds. The forehead starts to roll, the arm strengthens a little bit, and then eventually push into the other set of fingertips to roll the other way. And it's just arm and head. It's pretty gentle. There might be a little extra space expanding in the rib cage as well. And notice how you don't have to think about where to go. It's really an unfolding that happens automatically as you push into the hands. And as long as there's no pain, you're doing it right. And this is going to be our goal in class today, is to let our movements unfold in the natural pathway that the body allows, without any control from the mind. And take a couple more of these gentle side-to-side movements. And then relax the arms down, circle them back towards the heels, relax the right cheek to the mat, and just pause for a moment so the arms can relax completely. If this isn't comfortable in the neck, you can stay face down. Take a couple of breaths trying to lengthen through the neck. And then turn to face the other way, just so there's a sense of evenness. Interlace the hands at the sacrum and reach the knuckles away to counterpose the shoulders for a moment. And now you're playing the piano again, but instead of it being far out in front of you, it's right underneath you. So the fingertips come just ahead of the shoulders, hands nice and wide. So the elbows are in, hands are out slightly, kind of like a W. Gaze downward. Take a couple of breaths and eventually start to lengthen from the front of the feet, front of the shins, front of the thighs, front of the abdomen, all the way up the front of the neck. And as that whole line lengthens, notice how the head just effortlessly floats, and then set it back down and take a few pulses like this, syncing it up with the breath. So the exhale floats the head as the whole front line lengthens, and then the inhale releases you back down. And the next time you lift, start to sway the head over to the left. You can push into the right hand a little bit extra to support that. And then inhale back down to center, and exhale up and over to the right. And this time the left hand can push a little bit. And take a couple of these side to side sways. And the next time you come to center, relax down, bend the knees, and start to windshield wiper the shin bones from side to side to release the back of the body. RT, you and your friend are like completely synced up with your windshield wipers. I ruined it by saying it though. And then let the windshield wiping get smaller and smaller. And notice if that actually awakens more support, more core strength and stabilization in the low back and the hip sockets. And then lengthen the legs back out. Use your next exhale to float the head, sway to the left. Take a moment to pause here and then slowly lift the right foot, reach back through the right foot, and notice how you automatically go a little further to the left with the upper body. Did you guys feel that? Set the leg down, come back to center, and then do the same thing the other side. So start with just the upper body and then reach the left leg back and notice how the whole body side bends a bit extra. And then once you've got the hang of it, you can go from side to side with the leg incorporated. So each time you go to the left, the right leg lifts and reaches back. Each time you go to the right, the left leg reaches up and back. And we're going to be doing a lot of side bending today. You can pause at any time or keep going. If it feels like a lot of work, see if you can do less. Smooth it out, almost as if you're just gently swimming through the ocean, just for fun. And then come back to center, reach the right arm long, push into the left hand to slowly roll onto the right side of the body. And my favorite thing ever, we'll take some gentle rocks forward and back, just melting through the right side of the body. And so, as I was saying, we are going to do a lot of side bending. And the important thing is going to be for the entire side body to be involved. And so take a moment to bring your awareness down to the pinky edge of the right foot. And that's where the side body begins. And slowly walk the awareness up to the ankle bone and up the outer calf. It might not be quite pressing, but you can visualize that space even if you can't feel a massage there. Up to the outer knee, outer thigh, outer hip, into the side of the abdomen, the obliques, the side of the rib cage, the intercostal muscles, up into the shoulder, and then the side body continues up the side of the neck. But a lot of times in these movements, we will have one arm lifted. So you can feel that connection from the rib cage into the triceps. So that's the back of your arm. All the way up the lateral edge of the arm itself, up to that pinky side of the hand. And pause the rocking for a moment. Bend the knees. Bend the bottom elbow to cradle the head and start to push the right side of the body down into the mat. And as you do that, notice how the left leg just effortlessly starts to float. Kick the left leg out and then release the left leg back down. Start to exhale, push down into the right leg to float the left. And then inhale, release. And start to explore how weightless you can make the left leg by allowing all of the work to come from the area of the body that's stabilizing and anchoring. As you exhale, push the tongue into the roof of the mouth and see if you can feel how the tongue interacts with the top of the core. The bottom of the core goes all the way into the arch of the left foot. The next time the leg is lifted, start to reach the right arm long and slide the left arm forward so you can roll onto the belly. We're going to go all the way over to the left and then keep rolling so you're on your back now on the opposite side of the yoga mat. The right knee still bent. Anchor the sole of the right foot down and bring the hands down towards the heel. Push into the right foot to unweight the hips. It doesn't matter how high you go. And then we're going to be rolling from this movement all the way back to where we came from. And I'll talk you through it. Release the hips down, hands overhead. Push into the right foot, roll onto the belly, and then let the momentum carry you all the way to the right side, right into the leg float. Yes. And then from the leg float, we'll roll all the way back over. Arms come down, and we'll push into the right leg for our very gentle single-legged bridge. And then the arms float up and roll all the way over. And you'll continue at your own pace, but we've been doing this movement for a couple of weeks now. And so I want to empower you to move a little bit bigger. We were really slowing down each segment of this, and it can be fun to let it flow. If that doesn't feel good, feel free to pause at one, just do a few leg lifts. And then slowly roll to the other and do a few single-legged bridges. That's totally fine. And we'll all meet when the right side of the body is down on the mat. Take your time. It should be when you're facing me if you were able to set up in that standard position. And from here, gently push into the hands, coming up to this tilted kneel. So you should be on your right hip still. It's nice to see your faces again. Take a gentle twist to the right. And just like we did on the floor, how pushing down into the right leg floated the leg, notice how pushing down into the right leg floats the spine. And this wasn't a part of the plan, but it can kind of float the arms too. Notice that hydraulic system, how the core works like a pump, and when it engages, the rest of the body floats. And then release the arms down, push down into the knees to come up to a high kneel, and then slowly tilt the hips from side to side. You don't have to bend the knees very much here because it might not feel good to go very far. If it does feel good, yeah, you can go as far as feels good. Wow. Anybody a skier? Artie, is this like a good warm-up for skiing? I sort of feel like it makes me want to ski. And pause in the high kneel. I worked this one out from last week. While we're in the high kneel, we can move to the center of the mat, and then we can lower our hips over to the left, so we don't have to be awkward mermaids anymore. So we'll do that same sequence on the second side, and I love this moment where the left hand starts to slide out for us to get back to the beginning on the opposite side, because you can really feel the left lateral line. That line that we were tracing in our slow rolls, you can feel it working really hard to stabilize you. From this side, let the right hand reach in front of you and roll back onto your belly. This time, instead of having hands forward, bring the hands back to that W position. There's still piano. I'm really into playing the piano right now. Actually, that's true. Bob knows. Let the hands go a little bit wider, so further from the shoulders. Use your exhale to hover the head just like you did before. And now push into one hand at a time to start to snake the spine from side to side. And it's okay if this movement starts as just a side bend, but eventually, when both side bodies work together, you can start to create more of an S shape through the spine instead of just a C. So I'll just plant that seed for now. See if you can feel how both lateral lines are participating all the way down to the outer ankle, just like we traced before. And now lengthen the left arm forward, push into the right hand, roll onto the left side, and we'll take our gentle forward and back rocks to wake up awareness in the left side. And start tracing that pathway from the ankle all the way up at your own pace. And all of this is connected, right? It's not different bones and different muscles. Well, it is, but we're not really interested in it as such. We're interested in the left side of the body as a whole. And as we come into our side bends and our snaking throughout class, we really want to use the space all the way from the outer ankle all the way up to where the neck meets the ear, and all the way up the outside of the arm, that part of the arm that's touching the earth right now. And then bend the knees, and we'll start to play with pushing down with the left leg to float the right leg. I like to extend the right leg as I float it, but you can explore that. And then inhale to release. Exhale at your own pace for the lift, and then start to press the tongue up against the roof of the mouth as you exhale. Notice as the tongue presses, perhaps there's a sense of the deep core awakening. You might feel a little extra tautness through the center. You might feel the pelvic floor gently lifting. You don't have to do these things. In fact, please don't try to make those things happen, but just notice what your body is ready to awaken. The next time the leg's up, slide the right arm forward. We're going to roll all the way over the right side, onto the back. Left knee stays bent that whole time, and then you're magically ready for this moment. Arms float down, reaching towards heel, and then push into the left foot, slowly lifting the hips. And place the hips down. Give yourself permission to adjust where the left foot is, because you always want to make sure the knee feels supported. And then the next time the hips come down, float the arms overhead. Every time we roll, arms go overhead so they're out of the way. Push into the left foot, and we'll roll all the way over to the left side, right into the leg float. If you want to, the right arm can press against the right thigh. I forgot about that on the first side, but it feels really fun. So feel free to add that in. And then when you're ready to roll, you roll all the way over. Again, you always have the option to stay put and pulse if that feels safer or more inviting. And the roll can be very, very slow and dramatic. That actually takes more core strength. Or it can be a little quicker if that feels interesting and fun. Bree, I only saw your foot just like moving through space, and that was awesome. And then take one or two more rolls. We'll get ready to meet on the left side, but you never have to rush to get there. That's why I said 2. Nice, Kara. The next time you land on the left side, pause there and start to push into the hands, stretching that left lateral line that's been supporting us. And then take your twist to the left. Lift the left arm and add a little side bend. And then arms up, and we float onto our knees. And I can't remember if we did the side bend on the other side, so just in case, let's add that side bend and do it a couple of times. And then you can move at your own pace through those 2 movements. And if it doesn't feel good to lower your hips all the way, you can stay with the sort of like slalom experience of a little higher up. As the hips sway to one side, the lateral line is actually what catches the hips and keeps the thigh bone in the socket. So you might feel that sense of like the IT band being like a sling that is keeping your joints stable. Okay, we can stop that now. Pause at center, and my hips got tired, so let's pause with our hips on our heels. And I love this Buddha mudra. Oh, actually, this Buddha's not doing that. With the hand flat and the upper hand in Jnana mudra, and just rest that in the lap. Jnana mudra is when the thumb and index finger are together, and let the breath be like a wave from the belly traveling all the way up to the chest smoothly. And then with even more consciousness, let the breath release and let the focus drop down into the palms. Take one more breath like that. Okay. This next sequence I like to do on a folded blanket just so that my knees stay happy. So feel free to do that, and if you're not sure, try it anyway. And then we'll start kneeling. Oh, and we can go to the next track. So if you're following along with our musical playlist, we can go to the second track, which is Dreams by Helios. So the movement we're about to do is kind of the theme of class. We're going to come back to it again and again. So I want to demo it one time just so you can see it, and then you can start to explore it in your own body. So I'll demo it from the front and then also from the side. It will be this combination of slowly rolling up from flexion and then letting one side body lengthen from the knee, and when we're standing, it'll be from the foot all the way up into the armpit, neck, and arm, right? So it's not just about like my rib cage going over to the side, but really this whole space lengthening evenly and together. And then here's where it's interesting to me. We go from the side bend right back into the forward fold. And if you've gone too far into the side bend, if there's too much doership, it's not going to feel good on your back, right? So there's sort of like this Scout's honor moment that we have to do. Is this it? Yeah, 3. I actually have an Eagle Scout in this room right now, so that's a great honor. So it's 3. I never knew that. Scout's honor. I will not push too far into these side bends. I will not hurt my back in this sequence. Less is really more. And so it's this slow roll up, and then it goes into the side bend, and then slowly back into the forward fold, and then we'll repeat it again on the other side. And I'll cue you into it, but just make sure that there's this sense of fluidity and never a pushing, never a reaching. Some of you have already got it. Bree, you were like meant to do this movement, so you just do your thing. But if you're waiting for my cues, here we go. We'll start in tabletop. Send the hips towards the heels, but we're not going into Bhadrasana. As the hips go towards the heels, notice how the legs engage to support you. Push down into the shins to very slowly start to stack the spine. The hips go forward, the spine stacks. Take your time with the slow roll up. We'll start with the right side. Push down into the right knee. Let the whole right side body lengthen evenly, and then pause for a moment in this weightless, suspended side bend. Very slowly start to send the hips back, kind of like a chair pose, and then melt down through center. It should be effortless. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So very slow, roll up, start to favor the left knee. As you push down extra into the left knee, notice how the left side fills a little bit more and takes you into an even side bend. It's never about deep. And then bend the knees, send the hips back, melt through center, and you never want to feel that moment in the low back. And let's take several breaths to explore this. If you want to wake up extra core strength, you can take 3 exhales to slowly roll up. Slowing it down always makes it stronger, more nuanced. And we're trying to move as smoothly as possible. So if there's a moment where you almost lose control, that's a great realization to have of like, oh, something's not quite firing to support me. And you can move slower, you can breathe more, and it's like we're trying to connect the dots. Let's do one more each side and let it be your smoothest, your most interesting, And then let's pause in devotional pose. If it's comfortable, forehead can release to the mat, and walk the hands over to the left. Breathe into the right side of the body. Make sure there's no tension building in your shoulders as you do this. You can even, actually, let's all walk the hands back, almost more like cactus. Push down into the left forearm and float the right forearm for a nice side stretch. Come out of it and repeat that a couple of times. Connect with your breath. The next time you float open, reach the right sit bone down and let the right arm reach overhead, rainbowing through the whole side body. And then release the hand down and walk all the way over to the other side. Pause for a moment in the side bend Bhadrasana. And then release the elbows down. Push down into the forearms and start to float the left forearm. Push extra into the right forearm and notice how that helps support the whole rest of the body, just like we practiced with the legs earlier. And then take a few of these shearing movements that actually allow the layers of tissue in the body to glide over one another. We'll be doing a lot of these types of movements today. The next time you open, reach the left hip down and reach the left arm overhead, not straining anywhere, just allowing a length. And then release the hands down, walk them back towards center. Slow roll up, just like we practiced through center, but we won't do a side bend just yet. Step the right foot forward. So we're in a 90-90 lunge. And take a moment to wake up the right foot. So start to circle the knee. This should never put any pressure on the knee joint itself. As you circle the knee, notice how the weight shifts around the right heel, anchor the right big toe. Notice how the arch of the foot lifts a little extra when the knee goes wide. We actually want that. I love wide knees. It helps engage the glutes and activate the muscles in the legs and the feet. So the next time the knee comes wide, pause there. Make sure it feels safe. Make sure the big toe is anchored. And now we'll play with our roll-up side bend from a lunge. Give yourself permission to walk the right foot over to the right. Sometimes, actually always, I need more space here, so afford yourself that luxury. And I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see this moment. So hips hinge for the roll down. And then we push down into the back knee to slowly roll up, just like you practiced from kneeling. And now the whole left side of the body lengthens, and we go right into a side bend. And then our interesting moment of the hips hinging and the spine releasing forward at the same time. Slow roll up. And then the whole left side expands. The right hand can do whatever feels natural to you, or you can just like not even worry about it if you've got enough going on. And we'll take a couple of these. I really enjoy exhaling as I come up because it helps activate the deep core. I know that might be counterintuitive, so you can always do whatever feels best to you. And the next time you come into the side bend, pause there, and we'll add my favorite movement, which is this gently rolling forward and back shearing movement. And if this movement is new to you, it might feel intense or like you can't go very far, and that's fine. Don't push it. You don't want to do too much here. Just notice how the rolling open of the upper body can impact all the way down to the outer hip, even the IT band down into the knee. So you want it to be that full side body action. And then find a place where it's like the most interesting. Maybe you're like, ooh, it feels tight or it feels good. And pause in that space and reach the right arm out almost as a counterweight and just let that gently help you melt up and over to the right slightly. Push down into the left knee, always lengthening and creating space. And then push into the right foot to come up to center. Heel toe the right foot over to the side, and then extend the right leg out. Push into the right foot and notice how it sends your body over to the left, and then push into the right knee and see what happens with the torso, and play with that action. If you want to bring your arms into it, you can. Just like that cue earlier, make sure you're not overdoing it. This can make the back unhappy if there is a sense of pushing and pulling with intensity. So let it be really gentle, really easy, as if you were in water just as high as the ribs. And as the waves come, they push you one way, and as the waves recede, they push you the other way, and it's a really calm day. And the water's your favorite color of blue. And the next time you come over to the right, if you'd like to, you can take one moment in our classic Paragasana, because we don't ever do classic poses in my class, so get it while you can. Push down into the left knee, let the whole left side of the body lengthen evenly, and notice how the right side of the body can support this action, right? It's almost like a suctioning in and up with the right side, and you might get a little extra space through the left side. And then push into the right foot to slowly rise up. Honor yourself with this next movement. We'll play with creasing at the hips to send them back a little bit. Don't go too far. As you come back up, drop the arms and just take a couple of pulses to play with that action. And then two options. You can come down lower and take a more restorative pose, bringing the hips to the heels. You can play with one slow roll up like we've been doing right into a side bend to the right, just like we've practiced. So choose whichever is the most interesting to you. And we'll take a couple of breaths to explore. You probably have time to do both if you're having trouble with decisions. That's okay. Yoga shouldn't be stressful. And we'll all meet at kneeling. No need to rush. And bring the right leg underneath you, hips to heels, Buddha mudra, so one palm flat, one hand in Jnana mudra. Pause for a moment and just scan the body. I'm noticing a sense of spaciousness, especially in my right hip and my right leg after Paragasana. So you might feel some asymmetry, maybe even taller on the right side. And now we'll do that same exact thing on the second side. So give yourself the opportunity to relax more deeply because you know exactly what's coming. And we'll start in tabletop with our slow roll up, heavy hips, stack one vertebra at a time. And then once you're at kneeling, shift the weight to the right, step your left foot forward, and let's wake up the left foot. So some circles with the knee, as long as that doesn't put pressure in the knee. Keep the big toe anchored. That's like number one most important thing that has to happen with your foot, like pretty much all the time. And it's not a gripping, right? It's this subtle intelligence that allows the foot to adapt to support you. It's going to create more support in the knee and the pelvis, and it's going to help your balance. And then start to notice that wide knee moment where the glute engages and the arch of the foot is extra active because the big toe is staying anchored as the knee comes wide. You might feel a little extra space in the inner ankle as you do that. Give yourself permission to walk the left foot over to the left a little bit. You should find a place that feels like you could kneel here at your desk and be like, okay, I'm going to do work now. Like I could be here for a while. Sorry to talk about work. Pause for a moment. Let that one go. And then we'll go into our sequence of rolling up and side bending. So crease at the hips, sending the hips back. So it's going to activate the quad. So make sure the knee feels happy here. Melt forward. And then gently push down into the right knee. Take your time. Be really dramatic with this slow roll-up moment. The slower you go, the stronger and more intelligent your core has to be. Right? You're making it more interesting for your body to adapt. Right arm lifts this time, and then the whole right side of the body lengthens evenly. Left arm does whatever it wants to do. And then hips back, melt forward, path of least resistance. You don't want any pressure on the low back as you do that. And we'll repeat it a few times. Go at your own pace as long as it's some kind of really slow pace. And even though there's a lot happening with that back knee and the right side of the body, see if you can have some awareness of how the left leg is supporting you. Left big toe, left knee. The next time you roll up, pause in the side bend. Take a couple of breaths, and you can add those shearing rolls. And you never want the shearing to be intense. It should be an experience of working with your body, not against it. And see if you can feel it evenly through the whole right side, not just at one joint or one set of muscles. And then from here, push into the left leg to come up to neutral. Heel toe the foot over to the right, and then extend the right leg. Anchor the outer edge of the right foot, or left. That was all left. You guys did it right, so we're good. Anchor the outer edge of the left foot down. And as you do that, notice what might become stimulated on the left side of the body, right? So that's the left lateral line. You might feel it connecting up and even lifting the pelvis slightly. And so now push into the right knee to snake to the left, push into the left foot to snake to the right. Start to play with those gentle tug of war actions. You definitely don't want to go too far here. Let it be smoother. See if you can articulate the spine with more and more finesse. So there's this experience of an S shape rather than just a C. But that can be a seed planted for later. And the next time you reach over to the left, drop the hand, let the right side of the body lengthen. Think more spacious and less like a deep side bend. And then push into both the foot and the knee to slowly rise up to center. And then we've got options. So option one is to push back into this restorative modification of Bhadrasana. Option two is to slowly roll up from there and add the side bend. You can stay in the Bhadrasana, you can stay in the side bend, or you can take a few pulses between the two. And just make sure whatever you're choosing, it's because it's what your body's craving. It's not because you think, oh, this is like the best option or the hardest option. The one that is best is the one that is the most nourishing, the most calming to your nervous system. And then take a couple of breaths to complete whatever you're doing, and we'll meet one last time in our kneeling position with our Buddha mudra. And as long as we're close to the ground, could be a nice moment to have a sip of water. And we'll be going to the next track, so if that's easier on the ground, you can go to the next track right now. If it's easier standing, you can do it in a moment, because that's where we're headed. So tuck the toes under. walk the hands in and slowly lift the knees. If this feels too intense in the ankles or the knees, make your way into a forward fold, however is more comfortable for you. If it is comfortable to be in this low squat, pause for a moment, breathe through the back of the body, look down just to give the neck a little bit of flexion, and then very gently start to lift the hips up, letting the legs unfold. Keep the belly on the thighs so the knees are deeply bent and there's no strain in the low back. Rock the weight forward and back. As long as you're down here, if you still have your blanket ahead of you, you can move it off to the side. You won't need it when you're standing. And then the next time the weight rocks back into the heels, push down into the heels to slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. And if that doesn't feel safe on your spine, if you have like a disc injury, you can push into the hands, you can come into a neutral spine, but if it feels good, go for it. And we'll roll all the way up to standing. Wow, great job, Mel. That was your slowest roll yet. If you're not quite on your mat, you can walk forward onto the mat. And then just like we did in kneeling and in Paragasana, now we're going to explore, I'll just turn to the side, this idea of rolling up and then adding on our side bend. So you don't have to go all the way down, especially if what we just did felt like kind of intense to you. You can do it just from a chair, or you can fold all the way forward. It's totally up to you. So whatever your forward fold is, we'll roll up and then push into the right foot, letting the whole right side of the body lengthen, just like before. And then here's this interesting moment where you bend the knees and flex the hips, going back to center, which is either chair or melting all the way forward, depending on what feels best for you. Slow roll up and then right into the left side. So you can start to play with that, and let's all move really, really slowly. And see if you can feel the dots being connected from the outer ankle all the way up the side body that's lengthening. And there's nothing talking louder. You're not just feeling it, for example, at the hip or in the arm. There's a sense of the whole body supporting you evenly. And when we achieve this, it means more of our muscles are online. We're stronger, we're more functional. But no muscle is overexerting. So it's actually more sustainable, and that's why it feels easier even though it's stronger. Sort of like magic. It is magic. Do one more to each side. And then pause at center. Bring hands to heart center. You don't have to rush to get there. Release the hands down, palms forward. Shift the weight from foot to foot. We're heading towards a goddess pose, but take your time getting there and let all your awareness be down in your feet. So you're really feeling the ground. Wow, this song really syncs up really well with this movement. It's awesome. Let the toes start to turn out any amount that feels comfortable. And then there's a moment where you don't need to go further. Like, pay attention where you're like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, you guys actually, these are your best goddesses ever. Way to go, everybody. So take a moment to make sure there's no pressure here, the inside of the knee. If there's pressure on the inside of the knee, point the toes in a little bit more and see if that helps. If that doesn't help, you can heel toe the feet a little closer and push into the feet so there's more support in the knees and the hips. Once you've found your goddess, start to push into one foot at a time, just like we've been playing with in other things, and notice how the body unfolds in the opposite direction. The hands can do whatever you want here, or no, not what you want, what just naturally happens without you thinking. Don't do what you want. That's never a good idea. And start to notice how both side bodies can work together, right? There's one that's a little more obvious. For me, when I reach to my right, I feel my right side body more. And the magic happens when I can allow my left side body to participate. And so it starts to be this experience of not having two sides of your body, but just having one snake-like body that's totally engaged and supported, able to articulate your spine laterally. And pause at center. Bend the knees a little, letting your center of gravity drop. Stay low as you turn your feet to the left, sneaking your way into Veerabhadrasana 2. Let the arms float out. Push into the feet, and without this being intense, just ever so gently traction the feet apart to become more spacious. Should be a feeling of lighter, no gripping. And then relax the arms, relax the hips. A lot of times we open the hips and we don't actually need that. So let the right hip soften. It might actually feel like you're pointing a little bit to the left instead of open. Yes, you guys look great. Now we're going to play with our movement of releasing forward and rolling up. And when you do this, I want it to always be slightly towards the bent knee, right? So not totally open. So slow roll up. Push into the pinky edge of the right foot. Let the whole right side body lengthen, just like we've been practicing. And then let it keep lengthening into an effortless Utthita Konasana. You can pause and breathe here. If you're loving the shearing, you can add a little bit of that, but choose. Sometimes it's good to hold. That's totally fine. And then we're going to transition. You're not going to be able to see me that well, so just trust yourself. We'll be pointing our hips towards the left foot. So lift the right heel and start to bounce on the right leg so you can keep squaring your hips to the left, to the left, to the left. The back leg will naturally come in quite a bit, so you've got a short stance. And then bend the knees a little bit and twist to the left. Arms can be like a big bowl. Take a moment here, gently hug inner thighs together to lengthen the spine. Notice the sensations through the outside of the left leg. Hasn't gotten a lot of love yet in this sequence. And then shift the weight into the left foot. Anchor the left heel. So most of the weight should be in the left heel. Let the right foot get really light. If you want to, you can push into the left foot and open slightly for like a baby half moon for one moment. And then set the right foot down and turn the feet all the way to the right. Yeah. Okay. So now we'll do Veerabhadrasana 2 on this side. Oh, you're right, Bree. We should pause. we should pause because we got into Veera 2. I thought you were doing goddess, and I was like, but I can't see below your knees, so maybe I was wrong. But let's take a moment in our goddess pose just so that we can get into our second side of Veera 2 the same way. So take a moment to snake, and then drop through the center, low center of gravity. Turn the feet, and then that turning, you might feel like the tractioning in the feet, and let that help you create a lot of space as you lengthen the left leg and float the arms. Take a couple of breaths in Veerabhadrasana 2, and then release the arms. Let the hips soften, so you point just a little bit more to the right. Yes, nice. Notice if that feels, how that feels. And then relax forward. Slow roll up. Anchor the outer edge of the left foot. Let the whole left side lengthen. Let it keep lengthening. The right knee can bend any amount that you want to. For this experience of Utthita Konasana, make sure you're breathing. And then option to hold and keep pushing into the feet to create space, or take some gentle rolls forward and back. And then pause And now we'll make that transition over to the right. So the weight goes into the right leg, especially the right heel, but the right big toe always stays down. Lift the left heel, start to pivot the pelvis to the right and bounce on the left foot. You can be as dramatic as you want with these bounces, almost thinking Veerabhadrasana 3 if your body's craving that. And then let the left foot come in until you're in a nice supported short high lunge. Twist to the right, bend both knees, make sure the knees are happy, and then gentle squeeze with the thighs, just tying everything back together. Arms can fan out into a big bowl. Take a couple of gentle bounces. Okay, and now we will go all the way to Veerabhadrasana 2 on the other side, as promised. So push into the right foot, let the whole body unfurl to the left, turning the feet right into Veerabhadrasana 2. Take a moment to snake from side to side in Veera 2. And then release the arms down, melt towards the left. Slow roll up, and then right side body expands right into Utthita. It's kind of a short Utthita with the legs, and that's fine. I would keep it short. And then lift the right heel and start to bounce your way so the body is squared over to the left. Option to take some bigger bounces playing with Veerabhadrasana 3. Make sure you're anchoring the left big toe and pushing down into the left heel. And then eventually the right toes come down. And gently twist to the left for our Atlas lunge. Big, wide arms. 2 options here. You can unfurl all the way into Veera 2 on the other side, or you can shift the weight into the left foot. Take a moment first in Ardha Chandrasana. Stay there as long as you want, and then take your transition over to Veera 2. Wow, those were killer Ardha Chandrasanas. All this lateral stuff. Was that like amazing? Thumbs up if you were impressed with your own Ardha Chandrasana. I was impressed with your Ardha Chandrasanas. Good job, everybody. Veera 2 on the other side starts with some snaking. You can always skip ahead if you're craving any of those movements more. Otherwise, here we go. We'll start to pivot to the right. Oh, sorry, no, we won't. Don't pivot yet. We'll melt forward. Slow roll up into our Utthita. And then we start to pivot to the right. An option to be dramatic and start to play in some Veerabhadrasana 3s. You can keep it really bouncy, especially if you're working on your balance, or if you're feeling like really fired up and you want to hold it, just make sure you're still bouncy even within the hold. And then the left toes come down, twist to the right. And soak up this moment, right? That right leg is super strong and hasn't been overtaxed, so hopefully this feels really stable and supported. You guys look really nice. Great job, everybody. And then only you know what's going to happen next. We have the option to go into Ardha Chandrasana and then eventually Veera 2. So as you feel ready, you can shift the weight into the right foot, anchor the right big toe, but all the weight is really in the heel. And then slowly drop the right arm and let the left leg kick out. Remember that idea that pushing into the right foot makes the whole rest of the body weightless. Stay here as long as you want because you're killing it. Great job, Mom. Best Ardha Chandrasana ever. And then whenever you're ready, release the back foot. And we'll take one last turn into Veera 2, but then come out of it just because we're not going to do that again on the other side. So pause in straddle. And gently heel toe the feet in underneath the hips. Close the eyes and just be in your body. And try to release the urge or the craving to need to do something. And let yourself just be for a moment. And then anchor the big toes. And imagine the pinky side of the feet like suctioning down, right? And literally, as that happens, the arches lift, but maybe not as much as you think. And just notice that suctioning down of the outer edges of the feet. If there's a sense of the lateral side of the body anchoring and supporting you, right? Maybe a little extra space. People often have really tight IT bands. Maybe you can feel a little bit of space through the IT band, a little bit of lift through the center of the body. The outside of the body is pulling down. The pelvis is really light. The heart is really light. The crown of the head is really light. You can bobble your head a little bit from side to side. And then I feel the need to do one more thing standing. I didn't practice this, so we'll see what happens. Let's play with a snaking tree pose. So we can bounce towards the left. I want to bounce here because it's the lateral line that catches you. Yeah. So you'll feel that left side of the body almost like holding the left hip socket. And eventually pause. The foot can come wherever you can get it without your hands, right? And then you can pause here and find your drishti. If you feel up for it, you can see what happens with our snaking exploration. And remember, it's the two side bodies all the way down to the ankle supporting each other. And then if you want to, you can pause in a side bend over the bent knee, but make sure you're anchoring down through that outer left ankle, right? It's not going into the hip. This whole sling is catching you. And then slowly come back up, and just for fun, float the leg as high as is comfortable. Nice. And then set it down, pause. Nice, Roseanne. Whoa. And we'll do that on the other side. And I would say snaking tree is a thing, and I love it. Start with bouncing over to the right. Let it be really gentle, but pay attention to that sense of the whole right side of your body supporting you. And then eventually find a place for the foot, but try to lift it with your hip strength, not your hand strength. Gently squeeze foot and thigh towards one another and draw that strength up the spine. And then once you've set that, you can start to play. Remember, your big toe anchored is what's going to help you balance here. Nice, Mel. And just play with some of that side to side and see if you can let it extend beyond the spine and actually go all the way down into the right leg, the right inner thigh. And then pause option to bend to the left. And remember, it's the whole right side of the body lengthening. And then whenever you're ready to just see what happens when you unfold, it's kind of fun. Nice, Mel. And then set the foot down, set the arms down, and let's heel toe the feet nice and wide. Bend the knees, weight in the heels, melt through center. Hands can come to thighs, shins, or floor. Make sure the weight is in the heels so there's no pressure in the knees, and push into one leg at a time to start to sway the spine from side to side. And imagine any physical tension, mental, emotional, energetic tension, imagine it just melting out of the crown of the head, just leaving the body. As you sway from side to side, you're just dissolving anything that's left. We've gotten rid of most of it already through our consciousness in class. And then gently lower one knee at a time. And send the hips to the heels. Take a moment seated on your heels, just like we've come back to time and time again with our Buddha mudra. Take a couple of breaths and go to the next track. We'll start to cool down, and this song is too saucy. So let's see here. Sink the hips over to the right and cross the left leg in front of the right knee, as long as that feels okay. And I'm going to look at you to see. Cool. Let's take a moment to twist to the left for Ardha Chandrasana and anchor the left big toe down. Even in a position like this, it makes a big difference in the legs. Push the outside of the right knee down and notice how the whole body unfurls and lifts towards the left. Take a couple of breaths, especially through the right side of the body, the back of the heart, the back of the neck. And then gently untwist. And let's take one more of our side body stretches. So we've got two options here. Lift the right arm, and this is option one. If this feels easy and you want a little bit more, this option's not going to be for everyone. You can actually extend the bottom leg, but if extending the bottom leg sends, sends the leg into internal rotation because you're avoiding the stretch, then just bend the knee, right? So you'll know. It's sort of like if extending the leg does this to you, don't do it. So take a moment to play with that, and then we'll take a few last side bends. Make sure your low back is happy with your decision. If the leg's extended, kick the pinky side of the foot down so that leg is active here, so that whole lateral line is turning on. And breathe into the rib cage. You can literally expand the size of your rib cage and the size of your lungs by breathing in these kind of movements. So if you want to come visit me in Hawaii and go free diving, you have to do a lot of these side bends. You can add a little bit of forward and back shearing. And then release the right arm down. Bend the right knee if it's extended and go right back into that classic Ardha Chandrasana twist. You can add a little snaking in the twist if it feels good. And then stack left knee on top of right and push into the knees to come to center. Before we go to the other side, sit on the heels. Fun experiment after that sort of deep stretch. Lift your arms overhead and reach up as far as you can, and notice if the right hand is a little bit taller or the right side of the body is a little bit longer. Mine is like dramatic. Anybody else notice a difference? Yeah, don't worry. Well, even you have to come back next week. I'm just kidding. So sink the hips over to the left. Now you'll get your long left side. Right foot plants. Sometimes it's nice for the foot to be a little wide, so if that felt cramped, it's okay for the right foot to be over to the right. And then push down into the outside of the left leg to get your length and your buoyancy as you twist to the right. Take a couple of breaths. And then gently begin to untwist. And now we add our side bend. The right hand can do whatever is comfortable. It can grab onto that right leg. Sometimes that feels good. And then push down into the left hip to let the right side of the body lengthen. If you did so on the first side, or you're just curious how this side feels, you can extend the bottom leg. That is quite a deep thing to do. So just be compassionate with your body. Don't assume that this is going to be what's best. But you can try it. You can see how it goes. Adjust the right leg so you feel as comfortable as possible. And then from whatever position, you can play with a little bit of shearing. Make sure the bottom leg is active because that's what's going to help the whole line lengthen so that your left arm can be as long as your right arm. Check in with the low back. This is a deep stretch for a muscle called a QL that a lot of us are pretty tight in, just like sitting culture. And so you don't want to overdo it. Make sure you can breathe. And then release the lifted arm, bend the left knee, and then take your twist. Add the little snaking if you did so on the first side. It is totally safe to snake and twist and combine these movements. Our spines are very intelligent and they're meant to do all sorts of different things in combination. And then stack right knee on left. Come up one last time. And just make sure your arms are the same length now. You can have your money back if they're not. Okay. Pause your music. Have a sip of water if you would like to. Grab any layers that will help you in Shavasana. I highly, strongly recommend / almost mandate rolling up a blanket underneath your knees. So unless you know you don't like it, try it. And then turn to your left and extend your legs. And grab behind the legs. And we've woken up our deep core here. So see how much control you can find as you slowly release one vertebra at a time. And reaching the legs forward can help act as a counter pose, or a counterweight rather. Make sure you're breathing. Doesn't count if you hold your breath, even if you do it. And then let the arms reach overhead. Bend just the left knee. Place the sole of the left foot. It's okay if it comes onto the blanket. We'll just do a little bit of pressure in the left foot to massage the right shoulder, the right side body a little bit. Just a little bit of rolling to release any tension that we've built up. You know, sometimes with these asymmetrical movements, and once in a while we grip something or we push a little too hard, and it's okay. We don't have to be perfect all the time, but we need to give ourselves the opportunity to release any imbalance. And so just take a moment to massage the body. If you notice an area that feels sore, see if you can breathe into it and relax it. You can eventually make your way towards the other side. There's no right or wrong as long as it feels good and as long as you're breathing. Dogs always know when it's time for Shavasana. And then once you feel completely relaxed, or if there's any other counter poses you'd like, feel free to add them. Pause your music if you haven't already, and we will rest in Shavasana. Observe your breath. Let your body ever so gently begin to move or rock or snake. And see if you can allow whatever wants to come through in this moment instead of moving the way you always move. Just be open to your body revealing something different and honor that. And you can take your time exploring what it feels like to be on the floor, and then eventually what it feels like to push off of the floor to gently rise. And let each of those experiences keep you present. Eventually we'll meet at seated, and take your time finding a supportive way to sit and notice how the sides of your body are holding you and allowing for an increased sense of lightness and spaciousness through the central channel of the body. Let the breath travel towards the heart and notice if that pathway is clear. It's okay if it's not. The work is always the same. We just keep breathing and we keep directing focus towards the heart. And just like the energy of that slow roll up movement that we came to again and again, as you breathe towards the heart, bring that same quality. You're not forcing anything. You're just breathing and allowing something to unfold. And this practice can't be forced. You can't make anything happen. But you can allow your true nature to rise into the forefront of your experience. And so with each heart-directed breath, see if you can soften and relax and let the breath start to unravel the heart. Thank you so much for sharing this practice. Namaste. So great to see all my favorite people. Thanks for being here. If you're not in a very late time zone, I'll just plant the seed that the lateral line plays a big role in hanging. So if you've got something you can hang on for a second, it could just be an interesting experience to feel how your arms connect down into the side bodies all the way to the ankle. Kara, I know you're going to do it, so tell me how it goes. If that doesn't sound fun, don't do it. But I'm going to go do it. I'll tell you how it goes too. Have a great week, everybody. If you have any questions, feel free to stick around. Otherwise, I hope to see you soon. Aloha.